Amazing info.
Yeah, I'm gonna just start because it's we all
Like,
have our coffee. Oh, we all have our little coffee and tea cups. So
yeah,
it's like we're all together. It's really nice.
so sweet. I like it.
Okay, I'm gonna just
Mm.
jump right into it. Just so people know who we are. I am Hataya Tubtim. I'm the administrator here at the Vincent Price Art Museum Foundation, broadcasting today in support of our Art a la Carte fundraising silent auction. During this process, we've had uh, the honor to work with so many artists, over 30 artists who have donated their works to this auction. And I have two with me here today. We have Kime Abeles, public artist, LA based. She works in every medium, sculpture, paper, smog, Sculpey, you name it. And then Sergioteran, studio artist, painter, printmaker, also does some 3D. And I'm going to start off just by asking, can you please just give us a few words about what you donated to the auction? And Kim, you can go ahead and get started.
Oh, sure. I have to laugh because I actually made notes on what I did, not because I didn't remember what the piece was, but because there, there's like several elements that I brought together. And the name of the piece, I'm going to say, if that's helpful, a picture of absolute fullness in a mind forever jumping from part to part. And the reason I titled that, it's actually from a piece of written philosophy by Henry Bergson about the idea of being. And uh, in a nutshell, that's why I wrote, like, what's my nutshell look like? Um, the idea was that, we always think of there's something and there's nothing. And he talks a lot about you don't start with nothing and get something. There's kind of a connection between. And if you think about real life, we're always in this like flow and flux. So I've taken a page of one of his texts and cut out elements so that nothing didn't come first, nothing came second, if anything, and kind of playing with that in a book that I soldered together with brass that then has these oddly skeletal, a brush and a pencil. And so it's really an intuitive piece that I made, as much as, I'm saying, oh, let me read this to you. It's just that sometimes I do love to bring elements together that I did in different years. That one's 1980, 2009, and 2021. And really work kind of free form, which Sergio, you build up on your work too. So I'm kind of guessing you can relate to that.
Yeah, Kim, I really identify with your work physically, and it just really strikes a chord. I feel like I read it, and that's why I enjoy the work so much, because I think that your body, like the physical maker of it, is in it. Even though there's this, it's conceptual based, or there's an idea that's sort of driving it. I always really identify with the breadth of that piece that you've made, and your piece that you included in the auction is no different. Um, and yeah, my work is all very similarly. I like the buildup of the material somehow. So I work on things for quite a long time, and not and quite a long time is relative. So it could be from a couple of weeks to several years, um, and scale has nothing to do with it. It's typically just when it's ready. I know that some artists really have a formula for stopping, and I find that as far as material is concerned, pushing it as far as I can has helped me understand my material. So ever since I can remember, I've actually buried in, not like 6 feet under, but like put it put it on rocks and dirt and see what I get out of the stain or the surface, and then try to bring it back to life, and then or weathered it somehow in the sun, because the sun can really beat on things. But yeah, Kim, my work would be similar in that way.
Yeah, like surprisingly process oriented, right? In your case, I mean, I guess you could say every painting has a process, right? But
Mhm.
yours is very uniquely different, I thought, with these elements maybe kind of brought on, and then somehow they begin to build on one another, and even, some three-dimensional elements that come out and stuff. So I mean, whether you're doing like a full blown painting, like here's a painting, like, not other things put on it, to then paint over. I think the sentiment is still there. I guess that's why ever since I saw your work the first time, I just always, just fall in love. And when I saw the auction piece, oh man, okay, I was savoring after that. But it's so
Why don't you tell us about your auction piece? Just a
Uh,
few.
the piece I had started off, Kim, actually as a little, a very, very wide rectangle, and I've been working on trying to get a project started of making work about the community that I engage in with, as a routine, because I'm a very habitual art maker, and just my everyday routine. I always tell, well, I shouldn't be, maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but I always tell people, it's like, if anybody wanted to assassinate me, they can find me at the pan dulce store at the exact same time, you know, because that process is it's very important to me. But engaging with these people who influence when I go back to the studio, when I was at the studio, was what this particular project was supposed to be about. And I started, and it's really awkward to ask the people who, well, it's not as awkward when you know them. They know you by name, or they know exactly what you're gonna ask for or there for, to ask, hey, do you mind if I take reference? I'm an artist, and that you go through that whole humiliating part, and they'll be like, yeah, whatever. And then years later, I pop out with something and say, hey, look, here's a picture of it. But that's what that piece was about. Was we lived in Montebello, but we've since moved in. It was a part of my routine, and I'd go there, and those two ladies were just so lovely, and it was really like, I think the food was great, but coming back to somebody who's so hospitable, and it just makes the community better. And so I wanted to make these works about that. And these particular lady, they were sisters that worked together. They had such a funny sort of rapport when they're working with customers, and I just found it to be great. And that piece started off as that, and then we went into pandemic, and I put it away. And at the same time, I'm trying to sort of bring some integrity to whoever's allowed me to use them, but then sort of fuse them with my material. But pandemic came, and I didn't see them for like everybody else, and then just was kind of concerned, like, I hope they're still there, sort of thing. And they were, like everybody else, and they've gone through some changes. But in a nutshell, that's sort of what that piece is about, at the auction.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you so much. I've got like at least three burning questions that the public would love to know about your practices. So curated by myself, of course. So I'm going to just go ahead and ask them, and we can kind of riff a little bit. So the first one, I can see that you're both makers, obviously, from your backgrounds, both very prolific. I was wondering, what are the studio rituals that you might engage in to get started with work every day? Are there things, quirks, or things that you do just to kind of get your mind into that place? So Kim.
Well, I'm a really messy artist. I'm always a little shocked how it takes me about 10 minutes entering any room. I mean, not even where I'm working, any room, to sort of, a tornado looks like it came through. I don't know how I have this skill set. And so my ritual would really be that if I want to really think clearly, I don't want to just swipe a space on the table, because then I'm surrounded by a nest of whatever I've done last time. I really am better off if I can clear the deck entirely. Putting a new piece of paper on a table is a blast, but I can't do that every time. And in fact, if I could tell a little story, one time in my studio, it's like a big deal for me to put a big, new piece of butcher paper down on the table. And I did it. I was all psyched. Ooh, this will be the best work experience. And I went upstairs to get a cup of coffee, and my assistant wrote, while I was on the coffee, big letters on it: "Hi, Kim, have a great day working." And, and I'll never get over that, because clearly she didn't get what I was trying to get there. But, unforgettable, happens.
Sergio, your studio rituals.
I think coffee for sure. I like to get up early and get things out of the way. Anything that's sort of I typically have a list of things that I have to do, and so anything that's not going to sort of impede on being in that space, as you mentioned, Kim, I like to do. Certainly making some coffee. And I relate to having a very messy studio. If it's within the series of works that I'm doing, I don't have to clean the studio. But if it's not, if I'm trying to move on to another place, I got to put away any work that is influencing it from previous works. So I either have to flip them backwards or put them somewhere and get them out of my brain. So hopefully something else occurs. But I also, I guess another thing, just to sort of get the wheels rolling, sometimes I, like many people, try to get influences from the outside, go to see works or places that I really can invite something. Go to, if we can travel, get out and just have some sort of an experience. But I think the major ritual is, coffee, get up, get mind cleared, and see what happens. Sometimes I don't think I pick whether it's going to happen or not. It sort of shows up or it doesn't.
So what is a piece or a project that did not turn out, or, like you just said, like sometimes you don't know what's going to happen. Like, what is a piece or project that you may have had plans for and it just did not turn out the way you expected, for better or for worse? So Sergio, why don't you start, since you kind of.
I don't think I've ever a project that didn't turn out. I think most projects don't turn out. Most pieces don't turn out, and being okay with them not turning out is sort of where it goes. I'm not afraid to, as I'd mentioned before, have something happen to it purposely, put too much of something. I scrape a lot of my works out whenever I start it, or I can just sort of like layer things, similar to Kim's work. And what I like about Kim's work is it's very physical, and so it could become relief in my case. So it's 2 dimensions that are in relief or almost even sculptural, and that comes from pushing the convention of painting a little bit more. I work on wood or masonite, and I've often just taken a saw to the middle of it and gone, oh, that looks better. So the work, it's never a problem. Projects are more what that sort of like don't happen, like projects fall through, the people who want the work are are not exactly giving me the most ideal circumstances. I guess one particular project, well, I'll try to keep it very general, is what happened is I was contacted by a company and they liked the work sensibility, and they said, hey, this person uses this image, it'd be really great. We're doing this project that's going to go through Japan, and they had a big online. They had the people to this company had the people to that they said they had, and so it was going to go through Japan. It's going to go through U.S. 12 artists who are going to submit a piece or do a piece, and they'll present it every month. Anyhow, long story short, the person, this athlete, I should say, got into controversial trouble. And 2 years later, I'd made 2 pieces based on it. It got scrapped, and they just dropped out of exist. They just didn't say anything. I just saw it. I saw it online, and I saw it through people who knew the person that said, "Hey, did you hear this?" And then that's and I was like, "Oh man!" But it didn't matter really, because I don't typically. What was fortunate about this particular project is they chose me because my sensibility was going to fit this person, and then they were going to commission the work after I'd made it. They didn't give me a ton of restrictions, so I basically made a piece that I would make, which was great. But the project, I really wanted it to happen, but it didn't happen. I think that for me, the most recent memorable one.
Kim, how about you?
Well, I am pretty expert also at failure. I I run really scared as a person. Oh gosh, okay, that's confessional, I guess, but I'm very brave at trying stuff and experimenting. And I have a lot of friends who are in ceramics, and I'm mentioning it in particular because in ceramics, people always do little test things before they do the full things, like whether for the glaze or they're going to try this new technique or something. And I I always laugh because I just jump in. We're doing the big one already, and because of doing that, of course, there's a learning curve. Like a lot of times with my pieces, I think, well, if I could make a second one, I know it would be like this perfect kind of easy flow thing to get through, but I never really go there with it. So my failure rate is fairly high, I would say. And but the thing is with that, just yesterday I was up at UCS Santa Barbara doing a piece with all my trash. I had made this hope chest, and I was giving out these red wiggler worms to try to encourage people to compost, and that was the thrust of it. When I was driving home, I kind of felt like I had failed or something, like my expectations, because I had tried a lot of different things in that, a lot of different artistic elements went with it. And then I remembered that so often when I'm doing those kind of, let's call it an experiment, I don't know, but that's where I suddenly get an idea that I think I could really flow with, and really pursue and try. And I think that experimentation and failure, they kind of go hand in hand. Like if you're not willing to experiment and fail, you got to have both. You don't just I got a great idea, oh, I'm sure it's going to be wonderful. I think artists always, and Sergio again, that's why we relate to each other. There's I'm fine to try that, and I just want to add one thing. I did fail really badly on a sculpture once, and I threw it in the dumpster, and every day I would go out, and the parking lot attendant had pulled it out, and it was laying by the dumpster. And after about the third day of doing that, because at night I'd throw it back in, he'd say, Kim, do you know anything about this? I mean, he probably had seen what my work looks like when I put it in my car and stuff. I'm like, I have no idea. Because sometimes they just never revive. It's just, you resuscitate, and it's just gone. Sorry.
I
Yeah.
think it's fascinating because, you know, when we look to the artists that we admire, we don't usually think of um, the failures that they go through, or maybe we think they fail in the past, but now they've made it, you know. But I guess it's never really like you're never really made it. You're kind of always in that process, which is really interesting and comforting to know for, I think, other artists. So on that note, what is an essential piece of advice you would give to a young artist? Kim.
Okay. You know, maybe it's really related to what we were saying. Like, I think it's really important to continue to feel like a novice. You know, like I often look at students and every single thing they try is exciting because, you know, maybe it is because it might not work out and then they don't know where it will lead. And I think that trying to maintain um that challenge and that ability to just go out on the plank, you know, I know it adds discomfort for people, like maybe with your project you were talking about, Sergio. It's like, you know, when you're working with all these entities, like when I think of public art and stuff, you know, there are all these people I'm responsible to. But in the end, I guess if my failure is happening, um, well, I just problem solve and get through that and fix it, right? Like, so I guess that would be my advice, to not be so quick to find a little niche that you fit into, you know, like let that grow through you. You know, so I think there's always a certain dissatisfaction one must have with their work, you know.
Wow. Sergio, what's an essential piece of advice?
Yeah, I think to piggyback on what Kim was saying, I think it's really important, and and how she was talking about sort of the experimentations and failures. You know, they're really big. You know, they get you closer to what you're doing, or at least leave you with information. So, um, I think embracing that is highly important. And uh, I always like to say that, you know, I don't treat the work like it's something so precious, because you know you could you want to be motivated by the you know, the quote unquote failures. You want to be motivated by them. You know, you because and really, artists are going to be artists. You know, you can't stop an artist is just going to make no matter what. They're going to figure it out and take in that direction that Kim's talking about. But and we're makers, we make things, right? There's the what I call the today's artists, where they're coming out and they're, you know, conceptualizing and writing as well. But I think it applies to that, is you got to take a risk. I would say take a risk and embrace the failures. Yeah, and don't let things be too precious, you know. And maybe that means don't take yourself so seriously, and that's tough for artists. Don't take yourself so seriously. But I think that the more in tune with what you can do and what you can't do, and then being in that space where you're finding out what you can do, is what it's all about. So yeah, if that, I don't know if that helps there.
Great. Well, I want to thank you both for joining me today, taking time out of your studio time and out of your teaching time, because I know you're also active educators in the community. I also want to, again, encourage people to go and see your pieces, Kim and Sergio, at the Art a la Carte auction, online auction. If you go to vpam.org, we have a few days left of this auction. It will end on Saturday, December 11th at 9 p.m. So if anyone's out there that's kind of like, you know, on the fence, go there and, you know, bid on a piece and donate to a really great cause and to a great community. So thanks again for joining us, and I hope to see you all at the museum.
Bye, Kim. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.